Welcome, staff and students of St. Elizabeth, to our Black History Month guest speaker event presented by our Alliance for Racial Equity. It is with my honor to introduce my friend, Mr. Kayode Brown. Kayode Brown is the executive director of Just Be Graphic. Just Be Graphic is a not-for-profit organization. Their aim is to empower youth through arts, media, and entertainment, turning their passion in these areas into careers. They believe students that are exposed to all these will have a great opportunity, resources, and resilience, confidence to achieve academic success. Let's give a warm applause for Kayode Brown.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
You for the introduction.
Thank
Thank you for having me. I'm not sure. Are we going to be doing the land acknowledgements?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And we have Ales Gardina to start it off with our prayers.
It's Gordiani, but
Gardani,
to
sorry.
begin in the name of the Father, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, as we go through this workshop today, accumulate Black History Month, help us instill in us that willingness to share our knowledge with others throughout the year. Inspire each of us to work more faithfully for justice and dignity of life everywhere. Lord God, we remember the hurts of exclusion and prejudice, but we know that you can raise our vision above all barriers and give us wisdom and courage to make this world better. Saint Elizabeth, pray for us. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. And now we will have Chantel Jackson to read the land acknowledgement for us.
It's Chanel, but that's okay.
Oh, Chanel.
We are gathered on the ancestral lands and waters of all Indigenous peoples who have left their footprints on Mother Earth before us. We respectfully acknowledge those who have walked on it, those who walk on it now, and future generations who have yet to walk upon it. We pray to the Creator for strength and wisdom that all may continue to serve as stewards of the earth.
Thank you, Chanel. And with that, Mr. Kayode Brown, it's all yours. Thank you so much for presenting to all our students across your Catholic District School Board. And
Cool.
thanks, brother.
Thanks a lot. Thank you guys for the introduction. Let's jump right in because we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to start my timer, and I'm going to stop my stopwatch, and let's get going. So good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday. So while I know this is the afternoon and it's Friday and it's beautiful outside, I'm so thankful that I have you guys here with me for the next hour so we can dive into some really important conversations and learn and grow with each other. So for the next hour, I'm going to ask if you can, please give me your attention. I promise to make it as engaging and honest and truthful as possible. And that's it. So before we get into it, I just wanted to kind of set the rules for what's going to happen today. All right. So this workshop is going to cover topics that are intended for mature students, and you guys are mature students. And so what we're asking is that you guys please participate fully, honestly, and do it with integrity, respect. No answer is wrong, and I actually prefer that you give me your honest answer so that way we can dialogue and grow and talk together. So while some of the topics may pull at your emotions and at your feelings and whatnot, that's fine. It's normal, and we expect it. And so let that not deter you from speaking, and so we can grow together. All right, guys? So with that, welcome to the space, and let's jump right in. So today's topic, today's workshop is going to have two parts, okay? It's going to have two different portions of it. One part is I'm going to be speaking and presenting, and the other part is you're going to be participating by asking questions and answering questions. So as we go through, I will guide you through when you need to go over to Pear Deck and sign in and participate and answer the questions, all right? Today we're going to be talking about equity versus equality. What is that? What is equity and what is equality and why is that important? We're going to challenge those questions and we're going to dive into that. Then later on, we're going to start to discuss a hot topic. Black Lives Matter. Now, this topic is hot, popping, but what does it mean? There's a lot of different understandings about it. There's a lot of myths about it. So let's just set the facts straight and let's deal with that. We're also going to be talking about defund the police and what is that about and what does that mean? But then we're going to wrap up with what do we do with all this information? So today's workshop is going to be a roller coaster, and I'm excited for it, and I hope you're excited for it. And so let's jump right in. I think it's only fitting that I give you a little rundown of who I am and who's this guy on your screen and why is he talking to you. Well, if you're looking, you can see my family here. This is my family. This is my peeps. So that's my father. And to my father's left, in the middle, that's my brother Luther. To the left of that, that's my mother. And my little sister down there, right below my mom, and the most cutest kid in the world, in the bright red sweater. That's me, y'all. Many moons ago. I was born in Jamaica, and my whole family we're Jamaican. Now, my parents grew up extremely poor and worked their way through and graduated university, et cetera, et cetera. And both of them were teaching in Jamaica. They taught at the University of the West Indies and in high schools and all that kind of stuff. And so education has been in my family forever. My family's also very creative. Something I didn't tell the first group this morning is that my father, he was actually a DJ here in Canada. He's a DJ from the late 80s, and he had the longest running reggae radio show being broadcasted in Canada. Crazy. My mother, she is a minister. She's a minister of the Presbyterian Church in Canada, and she is the first Black female Presbyterian minister in Canada. And so take that in, y'all. That's kind of crazy because that happened in like the late 90s, right? Also, my brother, he is a choreographer. Now, he's been doing it for a long time, a very, very long time. And most people will say that he's the godfather of hip hop choreography here in Canada, because prior to him, there really wasn't much going on. So my brother he had a lot of impact when it comes to the music industry here in Canada. My sister, the youngest, she was born with a bunch of complications, cerebral palsy, hearing. She's deaf or partially deaf, and it was rough for her. And so in Jamaica, my parents had to move to Canada for healthcare. My grandmother was already here, so she brought us up, and she was kind of like the Harriet Tubman of the family. And so she brought us up, and she took care of us and gave us the opportunity to plant our seeds and grow. And I think we did a good job. Everybody came through on their dreams. And my sister currently works for the city of Toronto, writing policies or helping to develop policies of inclusion for people with different identities and different abilities. So this is pretty cool, especially with her journey. So that's really cool. And then there's me, this guy. So who am I? Well, first of all, I'm a son, yes, and I'm a brother, but I'm also a father, a husband, and I think I'm a cool guy. I don't know, but you guys can let me know. And I think it's only fitting that I introduce you guys to my family. So it's a pretty big family. I have 4 children and my wife has 2. So I got 4 plus 2 bonuses, which makes 6 plus me and my wife. That's 8. We cannot fit in a minivan. So the struggle is real when we want to do beach trips and road trips. But I love my family and they keep me grounded. And it's this group right here that kind of inspired me to start this organization called Just Be Graphic, because I had gone through some crazy eye surgery stuff and I lost vision in both of my eyes. Literally woke up one morning and it looked like I was looking through fog. So you can only imagine the sheer panic. At that time, I was heavily into graphic design. I was doing marketing, branding, websites, all that kind of stuff. And all of that just had to stop because I couldn't see. And so I took some time to figure out what I was going to do. And I was going through a bunch of eye surgeries and whatnot. And my kids are like, well, why don't you just teach? Why don't you just teach it? And I was like, I guess I could. I went to school for social work at George Brown. Then I went to York University for social work. Then I switched to education. So it's kind of all in my wheelhouse. And I love the arts. So I created this organization called Just Be Graphic. And what we do is we go around to schools all across the GTA and we teach in the arts. And so today's lesson is about equity versus equality. And we're going to we're going to have this conversation together and grow and learn. So that is me in a nutshell. And now let's jump in. So if you look on your screen, you'll see there's a website address, which is joinpd.com. When you go there, you're going to enter in this access code, which is going to get you to a bunch of questions. Not a lot, like 3 or 4 questions. This is just for me to get an idea as to who's in the room and what are we doing and what do you guys already know. All right, this is important for me. So, and the process. So please, if you can, head on over to joinpd.com. And while you're there, go ahead and you can start to answer some of these questions. All right, so that's joinpd.com. And when you get there, you're going to enter in that access code. Let me see. Refresh the page. You can see if everybody is getting in. Oh, yeah, people are jumping in. Awesome. So while you guys take your time, go through it, and you can, if you look on the bottom left corner, you should see arrows, or towards the bottom of the screen, you should see arrows, or you can slide through the different slides, and then you can go ahead and start answering the questions. So the first question is, draw or type 2 things that you already know about this topic today, the topic of equity versus equality. Tell me what you know. What do you know? What don't you know? All right. Take your time to get it done while I plug in my laptop. I just unplugged it with my feet. One sec. There we go. So tell me 2 things that you know about it. Now, there's no wrong answer, so take your time and go through it. And you can progress as you go along. The other question is, what is equity? What does that even mean, right? So please go ahead and answer that question as well. And then the last question is, what is equality? So now remember that this is just a mind map. It's a brainstorm. You don't have to know everything. I don't expect you to know everything about it. But as senior students, I'm pretty sure you have some sort of an idea what it is, or a concept about what it is, or a thought about it. So go ahead. I'm seeing some really cool answers coming in. I'm just going to go through and comment on them as I see them. So we're getting some really cool responses here. We're seeing fairness, being just. That's pretty cool. And that in itself is a concept, right? That's pretty cool. Giving people what they need to be equal. I like that idea. I like that idea. Continue. Keep going. Write your answers out again. There's no right or wrong answers, but I do expect that everybody give it their best shot in trying to give it an answer. All right. Equity, setting up things based on what you need. Equality talks about getting things equally. Good job, you guys. I think I can definitely have some of you guys facilitate this workshop for me. You guys are awesome. So while this is happening, I'm just gonna continue to move along, and there should be 4 questions in there. All right, and the last question is, you see what I'm saying? What do you think about the topic? All right. Like, so when I ask you about this, it's like, okay, so what is the differences and whatnot? But I think you guys got it. You guys are good to go. So let's jump in here. Now, what is equity versus equality? If you look at this picture here, let's see. We have a line of animals, and it looks like there's a man sitting at a table, and he's giving them instructions. And the instructions are, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. Now, I don't know about you guys, but you tell me, how does a fish in a bowl climb a tree? Don't know. How does the elephant get up that tree? Right? It's kind of, I get, it's kind of like, really, is the elephant going to climb a tree? But the concept, right? I think you guys can get it. So this is kind of explaining that, just because you give the same, the same test to everybody, that doesn't mean it's going to be, that's going to be a good measure of whether or not everybody's equal. Like that's not it. Okay. So look at this picture here. The difference between you and me is I see my glass as half full, and implying you don't see your glass as half full. This is a real good one. Now, let's just look at this picture. One guy has a big cup, one guy has another cup. Half full in this cup is definitely more than half full in this cup. It doesn't matter what suit, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, it doesn't matter what it is. If you got a big cup and I got a small cup, and you're saying, oh, why are you upset? Well, hello, yours is much bigger if that's what you were looking for, right? And being equal. So that's another way to look at it. So in general, and I think everybody kind of got this, got the gist of this when you guys were doing the intro survey. Equality says everybody is at the same level. Equity says, in order to have everybody at the same level, you have to first see if they have what they need to get there. That's the difference. The big difference between equity and equality is not that everybody gets the same, but everybody gets what they need so that they can be the same. So what does this look like? What does this mean in our world? So let's just look at today, as if we're just take a snapshot of what's happening around the world today. Let's look at this and let's apply an equity or equality context to it. All right. So we're thinking about who gets the COVID-19 vaccine first. This is a big question. So if we're looking at it on a global level, it's like, okay, so which countries get it first? Should it go to the first world nations? Or like we're talking about Canada, North America, Europe. Where does it go? Okay, that's one question. Or does it go to the poor countries that need the help? Good question, right? Let's make it a little bit more tighter. Let's bring it into Canada. So we're looking at Canada and we say, okay, so who should get the vaccine first? Well, Ontario is the most popular province in the country because we have Toronto and we're biased. So let's just give it to Ontarians first. And then after that, maybe Vancouver, then Quebec, but maybe the last one on the list would be Saskatchewan because it's or Nunavut, like Nova Scotia or something, right? So we're looking at it like that. Who should get it first based on equality? Should it be, well, every province gets the same number of vaccines, but not every province has the same population density. So that doesn't make sense either, right? And so that's where you can see equity versus equality. Let's look at it through a national economy perspective. As a nation, we all do better if the population is educated. The more educated the population is, the more successful or the better chances are that population will be successful and contribute to the economy. So if we're looking at equity versus equality, is it fair to say, okay, every school gets the exact same budget, right? To achieve it. Does that work? Or if it says, you know what, every city in the nation should get the exact same budget to work with. That's fair. Nobody can complain about it. Now we all start at the same spot and everybody has to figure out how to level it out. That doesn't work either because the population of Ontario varies hugely compared to the population of Saskatchewan, right? And so that plays a role in it, right? And let's look at it through the lens of housing. So I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that there's like a housing crisis, Toronto housing crisis. There's no affordable housing. People can't afford to live here. And then you have super big developments, right? And then you have people that buy houses and then turn around and Airbnb them, or buy condos and turn around and Airbnb them. So while that might work, while it's like, hey, if you can buy it, buy it. And if you don't, you can't. What does that do for the economy? Now let's talk about equity versus equality, right? So it's like, is it better to have more houses on the market? Meaning better to have more units that can be rented or purchased, or is it better to have units that are mixed? We have people that can rent, people that can purchase, rent at a certain bracket, rent at a medium bracket. How do we diversify it to make sure that everybody can get a house, right? Or get a stable or housing security. Let's fast forward and let's jump into what does this look like in a healthcare practice. So if it's like every hospital, every city should only have 3 hospitals, guys. That's just it. If everybody has 3 hospitals, we should be good. That doesn't work. And I'm pretty sure you guys catch my drift with this. And we can go on and on and on. So when we think about equity versus equality, we have to understand that this is not something that's fictitious. It's not like this high thinking that doesn't really connect to anything in our real life. It does. And we're going to dive through and show you how it connects and why it's important to distinguish between the two, and how we as a society, as citizens, should be thinking about it. All right. Now, this other slide here is a slide to describe meritocracy. Meritocracy, it's a big word, but basically it has 2 parts. There's merit and there's ocracy. And ocracy, if you're trying to figure it out, I'm just using knowledge that we already know. We know what democracy is, right? And we know that democracy is like it's an organization, it's a way of organizing people and citizens and viewpoints and all that kind of stuff, and voting and all that stuff, right? So we look at ocracy. So that means how you organize, like how do you organize something? And then merit. Well, we know what merit is. It's like, what do you bring to the table? What's your merit? What's the merit of this, right? So merit, what you bring, what skill sets. So meritocracy, put it together, is a system of organizing people based on their merit. That is great, but it has some flaws. So this image kind of points that out. I'm not sure if you guys are able to see the words within the cartoon, so I'm just going to kind of go through with it. So on the left-hand side, you see that there's a family, and they're cheering on their son. Yeah, go ahead, go, you got it, right? And then there's the son that is standing on books, and he's reaching up for the turnip or carrot or whatever you want to call it. I like turnip, so I'm gonna call it a turnip. So he's reaching for the turnip. Now, if you look beside him, you'll see that there's another student who's only on 1 book, okay? And if you look at what the teacher is saying, or it looks like I'm gonna call him a caring adult. We don't know who it is, but a caring adult is saying, stop making excuses and just do it. Oh, who cares if you don't have that? Just do it. This is a common phrase that's used whenever we're talking about merit, and when we live in a meritocracy or a meritocratic society. Schools function on that, right? The idea of do well, get grades, move on, and that's it. Work hard, get it. You guys have heard that. But it's not that simple. And here's why. Everybody has different starting blocks. So if we look at what this student is standing on, the foundation of what this student is standing on, this student is standing on enriched programming, the best technology, great tutors, the best school. Right. The other student is not standing on that. They're standing on what they have. And so the idea that meritocracy is flawless, that is not the case. The added part on top of this that kind of makes it a little bit more complicated is the fact that we all come with our independent biases. We all come with our understandings and viewpoints of the world. So for example, if you see a resume coming in, or you see a name on the sheet and it says, I don't know, like Gandhi Singh, you're already going to form an opinion. Okay, this person is this, or they look like this, or they are like that, or they are this. It's automatically going to happen, regardless of whether or not you want to do it. It's going to happen. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that's what you're supposed to do. Your life, you're supposed to see things and interpret it so that you can make sense of what's happening. But the problem is that when those biases prevent people from progress, that's where we get into a problem, right? And so a meritocratic system, although it's really good, it has a couple of flaws and a couple of misconceptions. And some of those misconceptions are that if you're not successful, it's because you're lazy. And if you didn't finish, or if you didn't go to university, or you didn't finish school, it's because you're uneducated or you're stupid, right? And the idea that racism doesn't exist, at least not here in Canada, it's like, no, no, no. That these are all things that just don't work. Meritocracy is a system that we love to believe in. And you know what? If we can really get there, it would be awesome. And for the most part, a lot of people are doing their best to try to not allow their biases to prevent them from treating other people as just people. But we live in a world where reality is that that's just not how it works all the time. So let's move on. We're going to get into, so now that we kind of understand equity versus equality, and we have an understanding of what meritocracy is, now let's talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, this, I anticipate this is a hot topic. Everybody has an opinion about it. So jump on into joinpd.com, enter in that code, and when you're there, please answer the questions honestly, and let's see what we know about Black Lives Matter already and All Lives Matter, and what do all of these things mean? All right, so jump on in. I see you guys are in there already. That's awesome. And so with this one here, I just need you to, again, you're going to follow similar rules. Just draw or type two things that you already know about Black Lives Matter. All right, so go on in there. You're going to go to joinpd.com. You're going to enter in the code, which is YAZUEH. And I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and start filling in those answers. So what is Black Lives Matter? You guys have been hearing about it all over the place. It's on Twitter. It blew up on Twitter. It went crazy on Instagram. YouTube has a billion videos about it. But what does it mean? Or what does it mean to you? That's my question. What does it mean? So we're getting some really cool answers in here. We're getting some really good answers in here. Thank you, guys. It's a movement to spread it's a movement to spread awareness about racism for Black people. Very cool, very true. But not just Black people, it's Black and brown people, right? Or people, minorities, right? Oh, this is pretty cool. Some of you guys are really artistic. You're using different shades, you're painting and coloring. Awesome. So continue, please. Go ahead and just finish answering those questions. Be honest. There's no judgments. There's no right or wrong answers. We just want to get your opinion on it. So while you answer what is Black Lives Matter, the next thing is, what is All Lives Matter? What does All Lives Matter mean? And is it a fair response? Because, I mean, just off the sound of it, just reading it, All Lives Matter, it sounds right. Like, yeah, of course, I agree. And I got to admit, 100% admit, when I first heard it, I was like, that's it. I like that. All lives matter. So treat us all the same, right? Like that makes sense. But it's like, but then that doesn't address the problem specifically. So I also got caught up in it too, and it was a whirlwind. Now I wasn't sure what I thought of it until I had to do some research on it and do my own digging around to figure it out, right? So please go ahead and fill in your answers as honestly as possible. And then the last two questions are very simple as well, which is, what do they share in common, right? And what they share in common might just be that they have strong opinions, as somebody stated, which is really very true. Very strong fixed opinions, right? That they both value human life. I love this. And that they're both responses to current political and social climate. You guys are awesome. This is great. I love it. I think as we get further, we keep going, the conversations are going to build on it. So this is really good. Continue to give me your answers. I'm going to be checking them and going through them. Awesome. And so some of you, like there's somebody here. Oh, I see what you're doing. Got it. All right. I guess you just have to be a little bit more patient. This is really good, guys. So I'm seeing here that what do they share in common? They both share respect and equality. Maybe just give me some, like, what do you mean by respect? They both respect what? Just so I don't assume, right? I don't want to put my own opinions into it. Fights for life. You guys have some really great answers in here. All right. And then the last question is, what are their differences? So, what is it? What do they share in common? But what are they very different about? Right? So, go ahead, take your time, fill it all in. Your responses are important, very important. Ah, so some of the answers, I'm just seeing them coming in. I'm just going to go through and give some comments. Dope. I love it. I love these. I love these analysis. These are really good, guys. You guys are coming up with some really good answers. Shout out to your teachers. They did a good job. I like this answer. Black Lives Matter puts special emphasis on racial injustices against Black people who have been oppressed. A mouthful. Very well written, though. So we're gonna continue with the workshop. You can feel free to continue putting your input in that if you want to, but we're gonna continue to move on. So don't fall too far behind. All right. So Black Lives Matter erupted on the scene, on the social scene recently. But Black Lives Matter has been a mantra or a philosophy that has been around for much longer than that. But we're just keeping it in today's times and in current context. What is Black Lives Matter really pushing for? They're pushing for police accountability. That's one of their biggest principles. And we're going to dive into that. Like, what does it mean by police accountability, right? Now, just so you guys have context in this, when I was trying to do some research to pull numbers and whatnot, I learned a lot of things. And so one of the interesting things I learned was that the current police um, system right now doesn't actively track police shootings and including data about race and like who was this person. Like they include obviously data about who the person was, but they don't have metrics on the racism portion. And that part is very, very, very interesting. The other part that is interesting is that the whole issue of police accountability came to the forefront of conversations because of all these crazy police shootings. Now, let's just settle, let's just set certain things straight. Not all police are bad. We know that. And that I think everybody can attest to that. In my family alone, I have an uncle that's an RCMP officer. I have an uncle that's a Toronto police officer. I have partnerships with Toronto Police, and we do a lot of really good work with the police and bringing them into schools and also just doing community stuff. And we're looking at working with them in terms of recruitment and all sorts of stuff. So police are doing, there are police out there that are doing their best to try to change the culture of policing, but still a ways to go. All right. So when we talk about Black Lives Matter, one of their biggest things is about police accountability. So, for example, in a province like Manitoba, 60% of police shootings were involved Indigenous people. But Indigenous people only make up 3% of the population. That is a that those kind of statistics paint a picture, right? In Toronto, currently, black males are about 22% more likely to be shot and killed in a police incident if police are called. Now, what does this mean? Because everyone's going to have their opinion on it, and every opinion has their points. Police are called out because there's a situation. That's fact. But not all situations require judge, jury, and executioner all on the same day. It doesn't have to happen. And the argument is, okay, well, even if I commit a crime, I'm still entitled to go through the process, the justice system. I should go to court. I should have legal representation. I should have a chance to argue my case, right? So there's all these things. So when shootings are happening and it's happening disproportionately, that's where the question of accountability come into play. Now, there's a lot of things behind the idea of defund the police, and this is a scary topic for everybody. And so before we get too afraid of it, I just want to say we're going to unpack the merit of defund the police. What does that mean? Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple stats to run through, and then we're going to get into a conversation about it. Defund the police does not mean cut police wages, pensions, jobs, or benefits. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean just cut them off, cancel them. That's not what it means. In fact, it's the opposite. What they're advocating for is for specialized training, the development or expansion of specialized task force to address cases of mental health, community safety, community relations, police recruitment. They're looking to say, hey, things have gone a little crazy. Let's just reorganize and let's put money into different things. So instead of purchasing military grade weapons, why don't we put money into education, right? So here is a concept that I want you to work with, okay? And I'm gonna bring it up in two different ways, and hopefully one of them will stick with you. So the teacher's job is to teach. So if the teacher comes in and says, hey, I got my lesson plan, it's perfect. I worked so hard at it. Oh my God, I got this lesson plan, it's perfect. And they go out and they teach. And the students write the test and they don't get the greatest marks. And the student comes back and says, hey, miss, what is this? I worked so hard on this test. I did my best. And you gave me a 60? I deserved a 90. Whoa. Okay. One side is saying one thing, the other side is saying the other thing. How do you mediate the two? Right? So the Ministry of Education said, okay, students are failing at a higher rate. Teachers are saying they're doing their best, and their lesson plans are solid. So it's not them. What is it? So they go back and they get to the drawing board and they say, okay, we have to understand that not everybody learns the same. Some people are visual learners, some people are audio learners, everybody learns different. Not everybody thinks the same. Some people are dyslexic. Some people, there's other cognitive things that we got to be aware of. Some people are transitioning from one school in one city to another school in a totally different city and are trying to get there's so many things. The family life, families could have been going through a divorce and the child is just not engaged. So there's other ways that we got to engage and teach this child. That's one thing. Then the ministry says, okay, what we should do is that we should give the students a rubric in their language, something that they can understand. So the idea of giving students the rubric ahead of time. Then they added on top of that and said, oh, we can do even better. We can give them a success criteria. So in order to get the mark that you're looking for, this is what we are looking for. So if you can do that part, you're going to get the mark. You get what I mean? Accountability. It's about changing it up. It's about giving people the right information, creating a system that they can understand and navigate so that everybody can be successful, right? So when we look at that through the lens of policing for what it was needs to be changed for what it needs to be in this context. And I'll give it to you like this. Policing is there to stop crime. But if crime was on a timeline, and this is the beginning, and this is the end, crime is here. Crime doesn't happen right off. You're not born and the day you're born, you're committing crimes. It doesn't work like that. Things lead up to the point where committing a crime is a viable option. And what are those things that have happened along the way before the crime happened that gave crime more validity, right? So we think about that. What could have pushed somebody to doing that? housing security, food security? Do they have food? Do they have housing? Do they have employment? Do they feel like they fit in at school? Do they feel like I'm not going to pass that test? I'm not going to understand that book. I'm not going to do this because of whatever other things are happening, and so they just don't participate. So the idea of defunding the police is around that idea of, okay, let's look at policing. If we're only focused on policing after the crime is done, we're not really keeping the community. We're keeping the community safe to a certain extent. But the idea is, but what if we put money into education? What if we put money into social services? What if we put money into healthcare, into food security? And food security could just mean put more money in so that, we can shop local and we don't have to bring in, imports and exports like this, right? So there's so many different ways that we can reorganize our society so that people are not, so we can take away the attraction to commit crime so that people can survive. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. So the first thing is, no, they do not want to cut wages. They want to shift money into different areas to prevent crime. All right. The other part is Black Lives Matter wants to substantially cut budgets to police services. What does that mean? They want to cut all the budgets, so we're not going to get the proper technology that we need in order to properly do our jobs. We're not going to get the proper vehicles, or we're not going to get the proper, workplace environment, or the proper, no, false, big flag on the play, throw them up. That's not how it works. What it is they're advocating for funding to be moved towards other proven means of crime prevention, which is what we spoke about a little bit earlier. All right, let's move forward. Black Lives Matter wants to dismantle police. No, that's not. They're actually calling to repurpose police, all right? And maybe introduce a more robust mental health crisis unit. Maybe to increase more funding towards schools and change what the community police officer in school look like. Like, what does that relationship look like, right? So there's all these different ways to reorganize policing so that we're not stuck in the current situation that we're having, okay? So, that was a mouthful. I hope I was clear with that, and I know I'm trying to make sure we adhere to time. So we're gonna just continue to keep moving here. And don't worry, you will get a chance to ask questions and to give feedback, and we can have more of a dialogue towards the end of the workshop. Okay. So now this one here, this cartoon here is just talking about all lives matter. Now, I don't want to say that all lives matter is a garbage statement. No. All lives matter on its own, not connected to anything else. Great, makes sense. It's almost like meritocracy. It makes sense. It's great. All lives do matter. Yes, 100% they do. But in this current time, in this context, we are talking about Black lives. So to help us illustrate that a little bit more, you can see one guy says, all he has on his shirt, Black Lives Matter. And the other guy is holding up the sign that says, all lives matter. You get the point. Breast cancer, breast cancer awareness. All cancer matters. No, not the same. Okay. No means no for women's rights. No means no. All words matter. No, they don't. Not when we're talking about women's rights. And if a woman says no, it means no. That's just what it is, right? So we can't compare those two. And the last one, which is awesome, save the whales. And the answer is all animals matter. We know this, my guy, but we're not talking about all animals. We're specifically talking about whales. So you can kind of get where I'm going with this. To say all lives matter is taking away from it's a distraction. It's a feel good to the ugly side of. But right now, Black and people of color are disproportionately being brutalized by police, and we need to figure out that scenario. That's the issue. So to help us kind of explain this, there's a pretty cool, funny video, kind of lighten the mood a little bit, but also to kind of make sure you guys understand where I'm going with this. And so let's take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it after.
Kanye West, oh man.
This is gonna be delicious, I can tell you that much.
Oh,
Here comes the
big
one. Oh, drop it. And there you go.
Excuse me, where's my plate?
You don't get a plate.
Why not?
It doesn't matter.
My plate matters.
Hey, all plates matter.
Oh, yeah, of course they do. I'm just saying, where's my plate?
Are you saying your plate matters more than mine?
Yeah, my plate matters too.
Okay, but you all have your plates and I don't have mine. So what's the problem with what I'm saying? And you know what? I didn't get the right drink either. I asked for a cup of just ice. You gave me just air.
Who the hell orders just ice?
Oh, I like the way it tastes when it melts.
So you want water?
No, I want a cup of just ice.
What do you
You don't get justice. Just ice.
Well, if I don't get just ice, you don't get a tip. No just ice, no tip. No just ice, no tip. No just ice, no tip.
Hey, you don't get to deny the waiter his tip. You don't know what he has to go through with these customers.
He won't give me my plate.
Man, you don't understand the poor man's situation and his side of the story.
Everyone saw him deny me my plate and just ice.
I didn't say that.
I didn't see that either, man.
Wow.
Well, I mean, you have a history of not tipping, so maybe you didn't deserve the just ice.
Really? You gonna go there?
Okay, you know what? Let's just ask the waiter why he didn't bring the plate and a cup of just ice.
Well, he was looking at the menu for a suspiciously long time.
I was ordering food.
And he tried to reach for one of the straws on my belt.
I needed a straw. Give me the straw.
Jesus, Thomas! What's wrong with you, man?
That's enough of that.
I just chill.
Can I get you guys anything else?
No just ice, no tip. No just ice, no tip. No just ice, no tip. Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
Don't laugh, people. Don't laugh. It's funny. I get it. I mean, the parody. It's a funny way to approach it, but it's a serious topic. And I hope you guys get the drift, right? So let's move on because I really want to get engaging with you guys and hear some of your thoughts and feedback. So we have about 15 minutes, and I think that this will work really well for a discussion. All right. So go on over to joinpd.com and enter in this the same code. You guys are pros at this by now. You guys should get it. And let's jump in and let me get some feedback. What are some questions that you guys may have, or opinions or thoughts about what we spoke about today? And again, the idea is I don't expect everybody to feel 100% confident, and so this is, or comfortable speaking. This is why in this platform, when you guys are typing in, all I see is I just see animal names. So you might be a cheetah. If you're a cheetah, you're the one. All right, but you can feel free to just give your opinions, ask your questions, because this is a real topic. And the next thing that we're going to get to is, well, then what do we do next? How do we move forward, right? So just to recap, we kind of spoke about equity, spoke about equality, we spoke about the difference between the two. We spoke about meritocracy. Oh, there we go. So this is discussion time. But yeah, we spoke about meritocracy. We spoke about all lives matter, Black lives matter, defund the police. Like, there's so many things that we spoke about that are hot topics, that are trigger words. And so I'm pretty sure everybody has an opinion about something. So in this slide, you can please feel free to give me, to ask any questions that you may have. And I see the questions are coming in, so I'm just gonna give it time because I see, the sentences pulling up, and wow, there's a lot of really good questions here. Really good questions. I'm going to let them trickle in. Great question. Oh, I'm just responding. So one of the questions is, what should I do in my community to help resolve the issue of systemic racism? Really good question. And that was the first question right off the top. This is a tricky one because there's no one answer and every community is different, right? I would say start with your family. Start by having the conversations with your family. And I know that might be hard because the reality is this. We live in a society right now where we're fed a lot of our information. We get our information from our iPad, our computer, our cell phone, social media. Even if we do watch TV, we pick what channels we want. We say, I want the news channel. I don't like CNN. I don't want it. Give me Fox. I don't like Fox. Give me MSNBC. I don't like any of them. Give me CP24. And all of them are just going to give you different bits of information, but you're not necessarily going to see the whole picture. And this is like exponentially worse online on social media, because online, the algorithms, which are like artificial intelligence trying to understand you and get you to give them more time and more clicks. So they are going to learn. When I say they, I mean developers. So Facebook, Instagram, Google, they're sitting there saying, okay, if I show this picture, will he like it or she like it? They show the picture, you like it, they're like, got it. Okay, good. Now I'm going to try this picture. Did they like it? Okay, no. Okay. And they keep going until they get a high success rate of you liking that picture or liking that article or sharing that post or joining that group or whatever it may be. And so over time, and it happens very quickly, over time, the internet for you is very different from the internet of your sibling who could be sitting right beside you. And so this is here's an example, or here is an experiment that you can do. If you, let's say, you open up your phone and say, what is Black Lives Matter? And you search it on your phone, but you ask somebody else, like your father or your mother or your cousin or somebody else, like just somebody else, to say, you search it up and you tell me what you see. You'll find that you guys are both going to get, most time, you're going to get two different answers. And those answers are dependent on what you follow and what you like. This is particularly the case when you're on social media. So when we come back to answer the question, what can you do to help? The first thing is be open to other perspectives. Understand that you don't know it all. I don't know it all. Your teacher doesn't know it all, but we do know some things. And so the more perspective you get, you kind of see it's almost like this. If there's an elephant in the room, or a huge elephant in the room, and one person, and you say to that person, draw the elephant, they're going to draw the elephant as they see it. But if you get 8 more people and you guys are all drawing the elephant from in a circumference, like around the elephant, you're going to get very different perspectives of what you're seeing. So the more you engage with different people and you ask questions and you intentfully look for new answers, that's the first way you start, because now you're learning for yourself. The other thing that you could do is, well, actually, there's 5 solid tips, and I don't want to go through it because I'm going to ruin it. It's the last video. So, but that's one way. Don't be afraid of perspectives. Don't be afraid of disagreement. You can have a disagreement and have a conversation and still love the person. You can just disagree with them, but along in that conversation, you can actually start to learn new things, right? So that's one thing. Why do police get money for resigning because of murder? Why aren't there any consequences for people who have? Okay, so now those are some deep questions. So all of that kind of stuff, I really wish we had more time. I wish we had more time. But yes, there's a lot of things of that, and a lot of that comes down to unions and agreements set up and all that kind of stuff. But as community members, we do have agency and we can challenge those things, and it does start with our local politicians. And so voting locally is almost more important than voting federally. Okay, you got to vote local because the local votes will start to change things in your area. Get to know your trustees, get to know your local MPs, and you voice these questions to them, and they have the power, and they have the onus of responsibility to do what's best for the people, right? So, but I wish we had more time. I could dive into that a little bit more. What's the best way to respond to someone who counters Black Lives Matter with All Lives Matter? This is what I say. You're right. All lives do matter. But right now, in this time, we are talking about Black lives, right? And I know that doesn't always answer it. The next question that I say is, I get it. So if all lives matter, then what should we do about the inequalities in our society, right? So you ask the next question, okay, so then what do we do about these things, because these things are not changing? Typically after that, it's like, well, everyone just needs to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, or everyone just needs to work harder, or people just need to stop doing this or stop. And that's when you know about meritocracy and you understand that it's not as simple cut as that. And you also understand that crime is a result of something else. Crime is a symptom of something else. Does that make sense? So to combat all lives matter is typically because they're trying to say, no, 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 don't, black lives are not more important than other people. Say, no, no, no one's even saying that, but there's a problem right now with black and people of color, right? And that's one way that you can address it. Possibly more detail about defunding the police and how that would work. Ooh, good question. A little bit more details about defunding the police and how would that work. So again, this starts off locally. So on an average day, we spend about $41 million a day on police services. Okay, that's policing in total. Now, out of that $41 million, and then you compare that to education or social work or any of the other big um, parts of our economy, you can see that, okay, well, if police budgets get 41 million a day and multiply that for the year, it's a huge number. How much of that can we put towards other things? And so that process is a political process, right? That process comes from politicians and you know, all of that kind of stuff, and they sit at city hall and they debate and they go back and forth and they do all of that. That's where those decisions get made. And that's why I stress that participating in your local politics is super important. Get to know your local MP. What do they really believe? What do they really stand for? Are they going to really do what they say that they're going to do, and hold them accountable to that, right? And so defunding the police, it's not a simple process. It means saying, okay, within policing, we're going to take, you know, some of this money out of here and put some of that towards education, right? And in doing that, we've already been over this. You kind of get where I'm going with it, right? How or why? Ooh, okay, how? This is a good one. How or why do people? Um, how or why do people disagree with Black Lives Matter or think that it's discriminatory? And I can't speak for all people, but in the conversations that I have had, very open conversations with people that don't align with my views politically, but they understand it socially. The biggest thing is that they see it as being very aggressive. They see it as being angry. They see it as meaning that society, that Black Lives Matter is asking for things that are not deserved. Like, why should Black people only get these things? Why should Black people only get those things? And that's a false narrative. Historically, in both Canadian society and American society, typically, whenever there's been civil rights actions or there've been big protests initialized by the Black community, it's benefited all. A lot of the immigration policies, a lot of the like for example, the SIU, the Special Investigations Unit, that would not have developed if it wasn't for it here, if it wasn't for Dudley Laws, who was a Black Jamaican immigrant in Canada who was tired of being harassed by police and requested and demanded and protested and took civil action to lobby that there should be a separate unit that investigates the police. Who investigates the police when the police are around? That would have never been a thing if Dudley Laws didn't do his thing. So when in this context, when people hear Black Lives Matter, it's no different than the same energy as when the idea of policing the police, like who oversees the police. That was a huge milestone to get through, and people saw it as unfair treatment towards the majority, and that's not what it was at all. It was about actually creating equity, right? So that's why. Also, too, because it's uncomfortable. It's just very uncomfortable, and a lot of people that are not people of color, it's very hard to imagine what life is like being a person of color, because, and it's explained a little bit later on in the other video, but the fact that, for example, my son is 17. I'm teaching him how to drive. He knows how to drive. He's getting his G2. Well, hopefully. He's getting his G2. And aside from teaching him how to drive, I had to teach him, how do you respond when police roll up to your door? How do you drive when a police officer is behind you? You know what I mean? So I tell him, listen, when you're driving, take your hat off. Don't have your hat on. Don't have your hood on. Take your jacket off. Put it in the back of the car. Sit upright. Don't lean your seat back. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, well, but why can't I just lean back a little bit? I don't want to lay down, but can I just not sit, perfectly straight? Can I have a little bit of a, those are things that, or it's like, if the officer comes to pull you over, make sure you have your wallet on the dashboard. Make sure your hands are perfectly visible. Make sure your windows are down. Turn on your lights. You know what I mean? Like, turn off the car. Like, you know what I mean? Like, physically turn off the car. Like, these are all these different things because I'm trying to teach them, take away anything that could be perceived as a threat, right? That's not right, right? And so it's hard for people that don't live it and don't have to go through those nuances of living in society that sees people of color as different. It's hard, right? It's hard to understand that. And so that's why it can be very emotionally heavy and people don't want to deal with it, right? So I'm going through, oh my God, there's so many questions. So many questions. Let me see, how much time do I have? It's 2:00. And I didn't get the text message that says that we got an extra 5 minutes. So I'm gonna have to wrap up shortly. But I hope you guys got a chance to go through and answer all the questions. And I do see these questions here and I will respond to them and I'll figure out a way how to get my responses to your teachers, or I'll figure it out. But your responses here are super awesome. But there's 2 more slides. The other slide, I'm not sure if everybody got to it. There's the slide. Oh, wait, that's been done. Oh, great. I think everybody completed all the slides. So with that, we're going to wrap up with this video. And I hope that this video gives you guys some quick tips on what to do. What do we do with all this information? And I hope that the next time we speak, this will be part 2 of this conversation where we can dive into a little bit more of the nuances and really start to unpack so that we can become the future that we really want to be. All right. The way you guys grow up, the access to information that you have, that the access to different cultures that you have to understand your parents did not grow up with that. Okay. Your grandparents did not grow up with that. My grandmother is 96 years old. She grew up slave. She grew up in segregation. She grew up in that. Very different. My parents are in their 60s. They grew up with heavy segregation. I grew up with no segregation, but still heavy racism. My children are growing up with less racism, and it's going to get better and better as the generations go. But at no point in time should we stop pushing that conversation until we get that ugly racism out of our society. So with that being said, here are 5 quick tips on how to be an ally after this video. And I please, don't exit the group. I mean, don't exit the workshop until you watch this video. It's pretty cool. Here we go.
Hey friends! So I'm trying something different with my setup, and I don't know if it's working, but you will deal. Imagine your friend is building a house, and they ask you to help, but you've never built a house before. So it'd probably be a good idea for you to put on some protective gear and listen to the person in charge, otherwise someone's gonna get seriously hurt. Look, I'm helping! It's the exact same idea when it comes to being an ally. An ally is a person that wants to fight for the equality of a marginalized group that they're not a part of. We need your help building this house, but you probably should listen so you know what to do first. Let's do this. So here are my 5 tips for being a good ally. Understand your privilege. Now, a lot of people get hung up on the word privilege, so let me break it down for you nice and easy. Privilege does not mean that you are rich, that you've had an easy life, that everything's been handed to you and you've never had to struggle or work hard. All it means is that there are some things in life that you will not experience or ever have to think about just because of who you are. It's kind of like those horses that have those blinders on. They can see just fine. There's just a whole bunch of stuff on the side that they don't even know exists. So for example, There are currently 29 states where you can legally be fired for being gay, and there are 34 states where you can legally be fired for being trans. Now, as a straight cis woman, those are things that I don't have to ever think about if I don't want to. I'm not going to be fired because I'm straight, and I'm not going to be fired because I'm cis. So it makes sense that before I can fight for the rights of others, I have to understand what rights I have and others don't. That's privilege. Listen and do your homework. It sounds like a no-brainer, but it's not possible for you to learn if you aren't willing to listen. So you gotta know when to zippa the lippa. I don't know. You get what I mean. But that's the thing that's so cool about social media. There are so many people sharing their stories all around the world and connecting with people that they normally would never get a chance to without the power of the internet. So do your homework. Start reading blogs, tweets, news articles, and stories so that you can get caught up on the issues that are important to the communities that you want to support. Speak up, but not over. If the Fight for Equality was a girl group, the ally wouldn't be the lead singer or the second lead singer. They'd be Michelle. An ally's job is to support. You want to make sure that you use your privilege and your voice to educate others, but make sure to do it in such a way that does not speak over the community members that you're trying to support or take credit for things that they are already saying. This isn't Mario Kart. Stay in your lane. Realize that you're going to make mistakes and apologize when you do. Nobody's perfect. Unlearning problematic things takes time and work, so you are bound to mess up and trip and fall. But don't worry, you can brush yourself off and get right back up. And back up! Just remember that it's not about your intent, it's about your impact. So when you get called out, make sure to listen, apologize, commit to changing your behavior, and move forward. Last but certainly not least, actually the most important thing on this list, is remember that ally is a verb. Saying you're an ally is not enough. You gotta do the work. 1 through 4. 1 through 4. As always, there are links in the video description box to some of the things I mentioned in this video, along with some resources that have been really helpful for me as I've gone along in my journey to be more conscious. So I want to hear from you in the comments. What are some sites that you suggest checking out, and what are some things that have helped you become a better ally? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye!
So there you have it, folks. Those are 5 quick tips on how to be a great ally. Thank you guys so much for giving me your attention and for participating in this workshop. I really look forward to coming back and doing some more work with you guys, and hopefully in the near future, if schools ever do open up. I know you guys will be long gone and in college and university, but I hope that whatever you learned today, that you actually mull over it and think about it, and let's really, really, really not just say we're going to be better citizens, but do the hard work and be better citizens. Especially if you're over the age of 18, get into the habit of voting and learning about your local politics. All right, guys, thank you very much for having me. And with that, I'll pass it back to your teachers so that they can do what they got to do. Thanks, guys.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if people can see me. Hello, all. And thank you all for being part of this awesome interactive presentation. Despite the unusual circumstances of the pandemic, this year's celebration of the Black History Month has been the best at our school, in my opinion. And this is because of the huge support from staff and students. I therefore sincerely thank all the members of Alliance for Racial Equity, ARE, for the amazing job they did prior and throughout the month of February, preparing for all of the activities. My thanks go to the teacher supervisors, especially Ms. Wu, Ms. Romeo, Ms. Mogaski, Ms. Buck, Mr. Chang, and Mr. Mullen. I also extend my thanks and appreciation to our administrators, particularly the principal, Mr. Henry, who has generously supported our efforts morally and financially throughout these years. And also to you, Ms. Robinson, our Black History Month Committee Administrator, support. Lastly, but by no means the least, thank you very much, Kayode. I'll call you properly. Kayode. For this
Thank you.
incredible presentation. You are one of a kind. Please
Thank you.
keep the good job going. For sure, a lot of our sister schools will be reaching out to you. I promise you that one.
Thank you.
For me, the take home from this presentation is a statement from the 60 minutes lesson plan by Kayode that states, and I quote, "The point of Black Lives Matter isn't to suggest that Black lives should be or are more important than all other lives. Instead, it's simply pointing out that Black people lives and contributions are relatively undervalued right now. And so we do need to put in a lot of effort and support from people. We cannot do this alone. We need the support of our students, our teachers, and everybody in the environment.
Mhm.
It is my hope that each one of us has taken something out of this presentation and that you can reflect on it in order to make the change that you believe in regarding the visible minority groups in our midst. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate it.
All righty. Bye.